actually wrote, correct?
No, that's not accurate the way you worded it.
You deleted your LinkedIn post that you wrote, correct?
I did.
Right. There you go. All right. So we're jumping ahead to I think you testified about this yesterday, your conversation over Signal with Katie Bowe-Willis. You recall that?
I do.
Okay. And so is it true that you reached out to Katie Bowe-Willis before she ever reached out to you, correct?
That's right.
And you asked her to connect on LinkedIn, correct?
Yep.
And you had reached out to her because you had heard that CNN had contacted Bloomberg about you, correct?
That's right.
And then once Ms. Willis agreed to connect with you, you began communicating over Signal?
Yes.
All right, so let's do this. Put up PX 122, which is already in evidence. All right. Keep going now. I'll just grab the entire thing, yeah. Yeah, just so we don't have to come back to it, G. Thanks. All right, so this is your first reach out, and now you're ZY on LinkedIn. Do you know why you're ZY?
No.
Okay. Was that a change you made?
I had to have.
Okay. Hi, Katie. Nice to connect. Please let me know if I can assist with any Afghan evac requirements. I get requests from journalists stuck in country on a daily basis. Is CNN involved in rescue efforts, or would they like to be? Did I read that correctly?
You did.
And you told Ms. Willis you get requests from journalists stuck in country on a daily basis. That wasn't true, was it?
I had been working for journalists, just not directly and not on a daily basis.
Right. So the statement that you wrote, that you led off with, I get requests from journalists stuck in country on a daily basis, that was not true, was it?
Yeah, that's true.
It's true that that was not true, correct?
Yes.
Right. In fact, you can't name one journalist who reached out to you for evacuation services, can you?
A specific journalist?
Yeah.
Didn't know.
Have you ever been reached out directly by a journalist for evacuation services?
No.
So you certainly didn't get daily reach outs, did you?
No, not literally.
So that was a lie, correct?
I wouldn't call it a lie.
A fib? A white lie? What would you call it?
I would call it an exaggeration.
Okay. You then write, then Ms. Willis writes, hi Zachary, good to connect. Would love to talk to you a little bit about your operation. Is there a good number to get you?
Mm-hmm.
You say, sure, I'm at a number, and that's a number on Signal, correct?
Yes.
Can be available in 1 hour if that works for you. And then you follow up. 20 minutes later, she doesn't respond. You have requirements with which I might be able to assist. So again, you're asking her, can I do some work for CNN, right?
That's what I was hoping.
That's what you're hoping. Okay. You take that down, Mr. Nemex, and put up PX 120. It's already in evidence. All right. And so again, I think you testified that this was a document you produced, correct?
Yes, this one.
So again, you deleted the post that you wrote on LinkedIn, but in this state of panic, you screenshot your communications with Katie Bowe, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because you knew you would want those if you were going to sue CNN, correct?
No.
Okay. Katie Bowe writes, hey Zachary, Katie Bowe here. I'm stuck covering some hearings for a couple of hours. Could you chat at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time in 3 hours? You respond at 2:26, and I think you said yesterday that this was off-screen time?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Katie. Unfortunately, I would be tied up for most of the day from that time, but can we circle back tomorrow or Friday? Then you immediately respond, do you have requirements with which I might be able to assist? So you're pretty eager to see if you can do some work, correct?
I would have loved to for CNN, yeah.
And then Katie says, we're actually working on some reporting related to ongoing efforts to help get at-risk Afghans out of the country, and your name came up in a couple conversations we had recently. So I was hoping to ask you a little bit about your operation. You see that?
I do.
You respond. I think we can go to the next page. So she sends that at 2:43. You respond 3 minutes later at 2:46.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you had time to talk now. Yes, I have heard CNN was asking about me, which is why I connected. I thought perhaps you needed assistance rescuing Afghans. I'd rather not be named in any reporting. And that's what you wrote, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Lillis responds, why don't we chat a little off the record and I can give you a sense of what we're working on, right?
Yep.
And so fair to say, she was saying, jump on the phone with me and I'll tell you what I'm working on, right? That's what she said to you.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I wasn't really aware of what off the record, on the record means. I just didn't understand it.
Right, but she says, why don't we chat? And chat means have a phone call, right?
That's right.
Right. So she was asking, will you jump on the phone with me, right?
She was.
And you say, sure, if you all agree, I won't be named in any article. Do you see that?
I do.
Right. And you said you don't want any media attention, correct?
That's right.
At this time, you were, so this is November 3rd of 2021, correct?
Yes.
And as we saw from the Jill Kornetsky exchange, you had been kind of on LinkedIn offering evacuation services for about 2 months and change at this point, correct?
That's right.
Right. Posting about evacuation services with your picture, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And fair to say, I mean, maybe you don't know this. Did you know that Afghanistan evacuation stories were getting media attention?
I don't recall it. I assume so.
Yeah. You knew that the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan was a big story.
Oh, yeah.
And you knew that the U.S. media was covering it because they had all those horrible videos at the Kabul airport, right?
Yeah, I've seen that video.
Right.
Yep.
But you knew this was like a pretty big story in the United States, right? The Afghan withdrawal?
Yes.
Okay. Fair to say that you knew that by advertising on LinkedIn, you knew that those posts could get attention, right?
Within my network, yes.
So you think just within your network?
That was my intention. Yeah.
Well, I'm not asking about your attention, sir.
Okay.
I'm asking about your knowledge. Wasn't it fair to say that by posting about Afghan evacuations, you knew that those posts could get some attention? They're out in the public, right?
No, they're not.
They're not. Okay. You didn't agree to speak to Katie Bell-Willis, correct?
I offered to under a condition.
As long as she wouldn't name you.
Yep.
And she says, I can't promise that in advance, unfortunately, but if you do agree to speak off the record, she says that guarantees that any reporting we have won't reflect that you spoke to us, right? So she's making a pitch. You talk to me, and we won't include what you're telling us. Our reporting won't reflect that you spoke to us. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And she says it offers you the opportunity to understand what we're working on and make sure we have the story straight, and to make your case to keep your name out of it. I'm a straight shooter. I'll be frank with you about where we are, right? That's what she did. That's what she wrote to you, correct?
Yes, correct.
So she was offering to you the chance to get on the phone, hear about what CNN was working on, make sure they have the story straight, give you the chance to make your case to keep your name out of it, and you did not take her up on that offer, right?
That's correct.
Right. You respond. You don't jump on the phone and say you respond 2 minutes later. What's the nature of the story beyond Afghan rescue? There are a lot of people involved in these efforts the past month. What's your interest in me specifically? Right?
That's right. I'm getting suspicious.
You're getting suspicious, right? You're, at this point, you're like,
what's going on?
She's asking. There might be questions about me, right? Because she told you right off the bat that she can't guarantee you that your name won't be in the story, right?
She said that.
Right. And she says again, let's speak on the phone tomorrow. I can run you through all of that, right? She's again offering to get on the phone with you, right?
I didn't trust her, but she offered that.
Okay. She offered to get on the phone with you, correct?
She said that, yes.
And you did take her up on that offer, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. You then write, I think it's probably I'd rather understand why the interest in me specifically before we speak, okay?
Yep.
So you write that. She responds. We've been doing a series of stories on evacuations and the various different models folks are following to get people out. Understand you're working on them too, and just want to talk about the lay of the land. You see that?
I do.
And you say, okay, I'd be happy to talk and help to understand what's actually been effective and what has not, but still would prefer not to be named in any article as a condition of talking with you. I know many people out there adore the attention, but I'm not one of them. So again, you're making the offer. I'll talk to you, but you need to guarantee me you're not going to name me, right?
That's right.
And she doesn't agree to that, right?
She doesn't.
Right. Then you're right. Also, FYI, in the past 24 hours, former sponsors we have helped have come forward requesting me to sign NDAs referencing CNN. Like me, they prefer discretion. You see that?
I do.
You tell her that sponsors had come forward, sponsors with a plural had come forward requesting NDAs.
I do.
That wasn't true, was it?
That was a typo. It's sponsor, singular. Singular.
Sponsor.
Yeah,
You meant to say sponsor, but you wrote sponsors.
Yeah, it wasn't precise.
Just a typo. But the last line, I'm a little bit confused, Mr. Young. The last line of that test says, like me, they prefer discretion. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were talking about one sponsor, that would be it. They is plural, isn't it?
Right. I mean, like Bloomberg's a huge company. I know
Okay.
Mike himself was personally involved, the chief security officer, so there's a lot of people that were involved in the sponsor side.
Okay. So it's your testimony under oath for this jury that when you wrote sponsors have come forward requesting you to sign NDAs, that was a typo. You meant just to say sponsor.
That's right. I was referring to Bloomberg.
So your sentence was supposed to be, in the past 24 hours, former sponsor we have helped have come forward.
Yeah, it wasn't precise.
Okay. Now, at this point, you're right. I'm also aware of others who view our success as competition to their own models. Do you see that?
I do.
And so, is it fair to say that at this point, you had suspected that either Ms. Kornetsky or Mr. Daniels or Mr. Lerner had spoken to CNN?
I wouldn't word it that way. It seemed like somebody must have given her some kind of false information.
Well, by this point, you knew that you had the situation with Kornetsky, correct?
Yeah.
And by this point, I don't know exactly when the Lerner, actually, you must have already had the conversation with Lerner, correct, too?
I think so.
Right. So by this point, you had had some kind of antagonistic interactions on LinkedIn, correct?
Yes.
Right. So you knew there was at least two people out there, and maybe including Daniels, three, who you knew weren't really crazy about what you were doing.
Yes.
All right. Then you go on to say, it's hard to imagine anyone, quote, unquote, competing in this environment, but some of these nonprofits organized by total clowns who would otherwise be unemployed. What are you talking about when you're calling people total clowns who would otherwise be unemployed?
Some of these groups were very effective. Others were not. We had a lot of people like Mr. Daniels and others that really wanted to be involved. They wanted to help. They just didn't have a background to do it, and they didn't have any real understanding. They'd been watching too many movies and didn't really understand the true nature of doing something like this.
Was Mr. Daniels organizing a nonprofit?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was
You just, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Let me finish. Yeah.
I don't know a lot about what he was doing, but clearly he didn't have any real background in evacuations.
But you just brought up his name in response to my question about total clowns organizing nonprofits. Who are you talking about, these nonprofits organized by total clowns?
No one specifically, just people like Daniels and others that were really trying to get involved. Their heart was in the right place, but they didn't have a real firm understanding of reality and the background to do anything helpful, to be honest.
You're saying they're organized by total clowns who would otherwise be unemployed. It's pretty critical, right?
Sure.
Right. But it's your opinion, right?
Yeah.
Right. And you're in Austria, but you're still an American. We're free to have opinions, aren't we?
Everybody's free to have an opinion.
Everybody is. That's what's great about this country. And you can't name me the people that you're referring to as total clowns who would otherwise be unemployed, can you?
No, it was a general statement.
Okay. And again, you're saying they have raised millions of dollars in donations to charter insanely expensive aircraft from their friends, and most don't even work out. What are you saying there?
Exactly what it says, that some of these groups raise a lot of money. This is an issue that was very easy to want to get involved in and help, and I understand why. But many of them were completely wasting all this money they'd raised. They were trying to charter these aircraft. They weren't able to land in Afghanistan. They just didn't know enough about it. So they were trying, but not effective at all. That's what I mean.
Okay. And Katie Bo says, that's part of what I hope to talk about, the price model. Our understanding is you're asking for $75K for a vehicle to Pakistan and around $15K for a single person to the UAE. That was true, right? That's what you were offering.
True.
Right. At this point, right, you have to know Katie Bo's asking about you, right?
Definitely.
Right, you have to know. And this is November 3rd. This is 8 days before publication, correct?
Yes.
Right. She then says, that seems exorbitant for folks who clearly don't have that kind of money, correct?
Yes.
That's what she says. And what she's saying when she says folks who clearly don't have that kind of money, she's talking about Afghans, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
$15,000 for a single person to the UAE is exorbitant for an Afghan who doesn't have that kind of money, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely. Then you then respond. Go on to the next page. I think the full message is there. Pricing always depends on local resource availability at any given time in a highly unstable environment. No Afghan is expected to pay for evac costs. None would ever be able. So you're agreeing with her, right, that $15K would be way more than any Afghan could ever afford.
Yes.
It would be exorbitant for an Afghan.
Yes.
Okay. Rather, we're focused on aligning corporate sponsors who have resources to support with those Afghans most in need of the the kill list variety. You see that?
I do.
Isn't it true that your pricing actually didn't depend on local resource availability at all?
No, that's not true.
It's not true?
No.
Isn't it true? Let me just read this again. Your pricing actually didn't depend on local resource availability, did it?
Not only that, no.
Your Honor, I'd like to go to 825, line 1 through 3.
Say line 8?
I said 825, line 1 through 3.
Sorry. I mean, we're fine with Your Honor.
I don't have it, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Young, you remember sitting for a deposition, correct?
Yes.
If you look at line 1, you were asked, but your pricing actually didn't depend on local resource availability, did it? And what was your answer?
No.
And your pricing was actually sending money to Yuri, however much money he told you, correct?
Can you rephrase the question?
Right. When you would do individual evacuations, you didn't know how Yuri was spending the money, correct?
That's right, correct.
He would just tell you, send me X amount of dollars, and you would do it, right?
Yes.
Then you write, we're focused on aligning corporate sponsors who have the resources to support with those Afghans most in need, the kill list variety. That wasn't true, was it?
That was true.
Sir, you never aligned any corporate sponsors with anyone on a kill list, correct?
Sure I did.
You actually didn't align corporate sponsors with individual Afghans, did you?
I aligned corporations who wanted to evacuate specific Afghans, aligned them for the purposes of my business.
My question is this. you actually didn't align corporate sponsors with individual Afghans, correct?
I'm confused by the question.
Sir, your model,
Do you mean connect them with?
well, this is your words.
Yeah.
You said, we've focused on aligning corporate sponsors who have the resources to support with those Afghans most in need the kill list right. What you were actually doing was corporations would contact you and say, we need to evacuate 3 identified people, correct?
That's right.
You weren't finding anyone on kill lists, were you?
No, I wasn't going out and finding them. But they
You
were.
weren't connecting sponsors with people most in need, were you?
No.
You never aligned any Afghan in need with a sponsor, did you?
No.
So that statement, your statement about what you were focused on was inaccurate, right? Correct? No?
No.
You did not actually line up or align a sponsor with a single evacuee, did you?
I aligned corporations for my business, and these corporations were wanting to get specific Afghans out. Maybe I worded it poorly. But
In each of the evacuations you performed, the clients identified the evacuees, correct?
yes,
You never identified anyone, correct?
that's right.
Keep going. Oh, then you say, when we can ensure delivery for less, we do, but it always depends on the local environment, which is dynamic and incredibly challenging. There. Let's go keep going down. Go to the next page. And so Ms. Lewis writes to you, so I'm looking at some text exchanges with a potential evac case who you asked if he has a sponsor to cover the $15K cost, and when he didn't, it looks like you ended the engagement. That's not exactly lining up sponsors. Can you point me to some cases where you've successfully connected a sponsor in an evac case? She writes that to you, correct?
Correct.
You understand what she's asking you, right?
Now I do, yes.
You did then?
I can't. This was a long time ago. I'm interpreting the.
Yeah, you didn't understand her back then when you said, can you point me to some cases where you've successfully connected a sponsor in an evac case?
No, I understood.
Okay,
It's clear.
right. She then says, some other folks engaged in this kind of work we have spoke to have characterized your prices as inflated. So I want to understand if this is a for-profit model or if we're not understanding the X, and then we can't get the rest. And you never gave her an example of connecting a sponsor with someone in need, correct?
Correct.
Because there was no example, correct?
Correct.
You'd never done such an alignment, correct?
Correct.
You then write, we'll leave it with the recent sponsor. Thank you, G. We'll leave it with the recent sponsors to whom you have already reached out to decide if they would like to provide comment. Is this another typo, or did you mean to write sponsors here?
No, I didn't know who else they reached out to. I knew they reached out to Bloomberg.
So you were choosing to use sponsors because you just kind of guessed that they had reached out to other people?
I don't know why they wouldn't.
But you only knew about Bloomberg, right?
I only knew about Bloomberg. That's right.
I hope they do, but I will honor their wishes with or without NDA.
That's correct.
And again, let's just kind of test your sponsor typo. You had only had one sponsor ask you to sign an NDA, correct?
Yes.
But here you say, I hope they do. I will honor their wishes, right? You're talking about multiple sponsors, correct?
That's right.
And then Ms. Lillis says, we're not in any rush. This was November 3rd, correct?
Yes.
The article wasn't published November 11th. Getting it right, or the segment wasn't published until November 11th. Getting it right is why I'm talking to you. And she says, let me rephrase this question. Can you explain why it costs $75,000 for a single vehicle to get in Pakistan or $15K to UAE? How does the math work, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she's asking you to explain the math, right?
She is.
And you actually had never gotten anyone to the UAE, correct?
That's correct.
But 5 people in a car for $75K, that was something similar to what you had done, correct?
Yes.
And You know how the math worked, right?
No.